I grew up in the old fort east of the present town of Joseph City. For a time, I worked at the rock quarry at Penzance. This was at the time when I should have been in school, but my family needed my support. I later worked for a construction company who were building the railroad and bridges. In August 1902, I quit work at Diablo and Sunshine, west of Winslow, to prepare to go to Salt Lake City to be married to my boyhood sweetheart.
I was born into a home of love. My mother died before my 4th birthday. My memory of her is limited, but she left the impression of love and kindness. My other mother, Grandma Lois, accepted the responsibility of rearing we children of my mother. She treated us equally with her own. In my growing years, I shared in the home duties with the other children, enjoying learning how to sew, cook, and keep a neat home. My brothers and sisters were a joy to me, and I became very close to them, especially those near my age. During these years, a special friendship developed between a young man, John Westover, and myself. This friendship grew into our love for each other. At times he was away from home, working at the quarry at Penzance. He would walk the 6 miles to town to see his mother and family, and of course he came to visit me. He was quite bashful, but I came to know he was special to me. After a time, John asked my father for permission to marry me. Father gave his approval because he had come to think very highly of John and the responsible way he was helping support his mother and family.
Going by wagon, it took us 3 weeks to make the trip. Later in our lives, we drove the distance by car in 1 day or by plane in about 2 hours. My mother and others made the trip with us. After the wedding, we visited some of our families in Grantsville and Lehigh on our way home. We arrived back in Arizona with each of us having 1 dime to begin our lives. We moved into 1 room of my mother's home, which Eddie and I had built for her in 1900. We had filed on a homestead 3 miles east of town where I built a 1-room house. Later, we added an adobe room. This ranch area is now covered by the water storage lake for Arizona Public Service Cholla Power Plant. This homestead house was home for us in the summertime, but we lived in my mother's home in the winter while I was away working. During this time, my wife had to milk the cows, a new experience for her. Wishing to have a home of our own, we began building the home we lived in for the rest of our lives. Additions were made later. We referred to this home as the house that John built. My wife always loved to have things beautiful and kept a garden full of roses and other flowers.
As our babies were born and grew, they became a comfort and help to me, especially during the times when their father was away working. 10 of our 11 children were born at home.
During most of her adult life, Adele was involved in church and civic activities, and most of her church callings were in the Relief Society organization. John held many responsible positions in the church. In 1913, he was chosen to be a counselor to Bishop Bushman, and in 1916, he was called to be the bishop. He held this position for 23 years, with a 6 months leave to serve in the Eastern States Mission.
Our daughter Pearl was very ill for many years with Bright's disease. She suffered much, but was always cheerful. She was a choice spirit, and we are sure she was sent to us for a purpose. She loved life, but was limited in her ability to enjoy it fully.
Along with his church duties, John took an active part in politics and government affairs. For years he was precinct committeeman, helping elect good men to office. He was appointed Navajo County bond chairman during the war years. Later, he was appointed by the governor to complete the term of Don T. Udall in the 15th legislature. The following 2 terms, he was re-elected to this office. He was actively involved in the drive to have a schoolhouse built. School had been held in the church. A gymnasium was also needed, so he convinced the local school board to cooperate with the church in getting it built. It took a trip to Salt Lake City to see the presiding bishop, who agreed it was a good idea.
During my working years, I spent much time with the irrigation projects. We had to maintain the flow of water from the dam into the irrigation ditches leading to the farms. Many earlier dams were washed out by summer floods. While I was bishop, we obtained several $1,000s from the presiding bishop and President Heber J. Grant and completed the dam that stands today.
Many general authorities of the church and public officials have considered John to be their friend. One of these is Senator Barry Goldwater.
This is Senator Barry Goldwater sitting in my office in Washington, wishing I could be with all of you to honor Mr. John Westover and his whole family from Joseph City, Arizona. It's been to families like the Westover family that all of the rest of us who call Arizona our home look to with a great deal of indebtedness because of the dedication and the example that they have given to all of us of what hard work and willingness and a trust in God will do.
In later years, Adele was active in the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers organization. She was instrumental in the erecting of an historical monument at the site of the old fort east of town.
For many years, I gathered historical and genealogical information about the settlement of what is now Joseph City, and the people who live there and their descendants. With the editorial cooperation of J. Morris Richards, we published a book from this information, Unflinching Courage.
To visit with you folks this morning, descendants of John L. Westover and Adele Bushman. It's been one of the great joys of my life to have known them and to have been closely associated with them. They seem almost as much my own family as my own brothers and sisters. Adele Bushman Westover has left many monuments, of course, to her memory, chief of which, of course, are you folks, the members of her family. But after you and I are dead and gone, this book, Unflinching Courage, will live on for all those who want to look within its covers. She did a mammoth job with her camp of the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers in collecting all the information of the biographical sketches and the family group sheets that went into this book, over 700 pages. If she did nothing else, and of course she did thousands of other things to serve her fellow men, she would have done a monumental work in leaving this book to her posterity and all who love Joseph City.
I considered this a labor of love for the area and the people who were and are living there, and are so vital to its development and growth. I continued my interest in genealogy, and with my husband cooperating, spent many years searching out our ancestors and doing the vicarious work for them in the temple. As I review my life, it has been full of joy and satisfaction, as I was given the privilege of serving others and being served by them, especially my family. I hope all of you know how much I love and appreciate you. My prayer is for you to enjoy life as you should, having happiness here and being prepared to continue this joy eternally. I look forward to the time when your earthly lives are completed, when I will welcome each of you as you join us in our eternal family homes.
As I return from my memory trip to the reality of life, having left this vale of tears, I am convinced that my lovely wife and I are the richest of all. We have no money, never did have, but we have a family of fine children, as well as their families, who are eternal jewels. There are no greater riches.